Welcome back to Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. Last time we defeated the first of Greevil's bodyguards, but he's put up an impenetrable wall of glass and we can't go any further. So we're going to be heading back out, and we have an immediate boss fight. Right after that. Yeah, I wasn't kidding when I said this is basically a boss rush. So, this next boss fight is against someone quite familiar to us. So, let me think of who I want to lead with, because I know who he leads with, and actually these two might do not a bad job there. So, let's go. Seems like it's hopeless, right? If we try and move any further... Yeah, we weren't gonna not fight this guy, were we? Kind of weird that you don't fight him until after Ardos. It's something that I kind of forget when I replay this game. I can't tell whether Gorigan is one of the nicer Cypher members or one of the most jerkish. So, it's time for Gorigan Country Returns. He still has some of the same Pokemon he did in earlier fights, so he's got the Slowking and the Ursaring this time. He's not leading with Walrein or Aggron, as would be the case, considering that he led with those last time. But, this time, he's pretty much gone full Dakin. He uses Earthquake Protect. Now, I do know for a fact, though, that Slowking doesn't have Protect, so I can safely double target it. Gonna go for a Crunch, and, well... Ricky is just not going to be that useful against this Slowking, so I'm going to go for a Stun Spore. You had a feeling you would Protect. Some of his Pokemon don't have Protect, so if you do know that, it makes the fight a lot easier, because you know which ones are safe to double target and which aren't. That's fine. You're going to go down to Crunch next turn anyway. Okay, Fish Slayer's probably going to take... Actually, not that much. Slowking is not the best Earthquake user in the world, so... It's not like I really need to worry too much about that. Crunch you, and hopefully Ricky is faster than the Ursaring. Let's see. Still love that spinning animation that Sharpedo does. Okay, that's one down. I don't want to speak too soon, but this guy is considerably easier than Ardos, and his levels are a little bit lower, so it's a bit of a breather after that fight. Okay, there's Aggron. That is the one that I want my Bear's Brick Break for. Or I could just Sky Uppercut it. What am I thinking? I'm an idiot. Well, his Bear is down. What's his replacement going to be? Walrein. A lot of his team is actually weak to fighting now that I think about it. Okay, now his Walrein is another one of the Pokemon on his team that don't have Protect, if I'm remembering right. So I'm going to go straight for... I feel like Double Edge might actually do more. Yep, called it again. If you figure out this guy's AI pattern, you can kind of cheese him. This Walrein is his strongest Pokemon, though. In fact, I think that's... No, wait, no, Walrein is supposed to evolve at level 45, I think, so that's one level lower than it should be. But anyway, Walrein is down before it could do anything. Don't worry, it doesn't have Sheik Hold or anything. It just has a bunch of Ice moves and Earthquake, if I'm remembering correctly. And Poliwrath. Yeah, you can probably guess that's one of his Shadow Pokemon. And this is the reason why I bought a few more Netballs, but not a lot. I currently have, I think, 5, because there are exactly 2 more Water Pokemon to catch in this game, and Poliwrath is one of them. So I felt that I didn't need to go overboard with buying those items because, well, obviously I wouldn't need that many of them. Except if I want to go Poké Spotting, I guess. As tempting as it is to see how much damage Mach Punch is going to do, I should probably just Sky Uppercut that thing and get done with it. The Poliwrath does have Shadow Storm, and that's its main offensive threat, and wow, that barely did anything. Okay, I didn't miss Sky Uppercut, that's good, that should be Aggron down, yes it is. Because even though your defense is ridiculous, that is a quad weakness for a Pokemon with 130 base attack, so it's going to go down pretty easily. And Mr. Mime, which is female! Once again, I talked about dub-induced plot holes earlier. Mr. Mime is one of them. They obviously named Mr. Mime before gender was a thing. In Japanese, Mr. Mime's name is Barrierd, which is gender neutral, so... Yeah. I think I once, like, heard that the original translator for Red and Blue actually did go on record saying if they introduce genders for Pokemon later, then this is going to come back to bite us, but, he still did it anyway. Oh yeah, by the way, Mr. Mime is not Fairy in this generation, it's just pure Psychic, so Crunch will be super effective. I almost made that mistake. Mr. Mime is also pretty frail on the physical side, so you'll want to be careful of that. I think I'll just Water Pulse it. And I'll Stun Spore the Poliwrath and just try and get it out of the way with the... So that's a Quick Ball. No, definitely not a Quick Ball, because they don't exist yet. A Netball. Uh-oh. Well, at least I know you don't have Own Tempo. Because I know that Own Tempo is one of Mr. Mime's abilities, but I forget what the other one is. Filter doesn't exist in this generation, so... Wait a minute, does Mr. Mime even have Own Tempo? No, wait, it has Sound... Well, that's not good. What is it with multi-targeting shadow moves and critting me in this game? Because that's happened an awful lot. But... who else will I send out? Well, I suppose I can try and put them to sleep. Actually, I'm pretty sure that Soundproof is one of Mr. Mime's abilities. And maybe it doesn't have Own Tempo. I forget if Filter is an actual ability that, like, became a... Well, I know what it has anyway now. The discussion is completely moot because... Well, I see Gorigan was offended at me calling this fight easy. And yet that is a major issue with the way that sending out Pokemon works, like after Pokemon faint in Gen 3. It's entirely possible to have a Pokemon sent out and then immediately KO'd in the same turn. So I can see why they changed it to the system that they used in Generation 4, where any Pokemon that's sent in to replace a fainted Pokemon is 100% safe from attacks that turn. Because, yeah, otherwise you can get situations like that. It's pretty funny how I was just spending so much time discussing the, what ability that Mr. Mime could have, and then Gardevoir traces it, and it's like, oh yeah, of course it's soundproof. Well, that Mr. Mime is confused. I guess I can go for Icy Wind. Okay, I'm kind of thankful for that, even though Mr. Mime's defense is pretty bad. The attack is pretty bad too, so it kind of evens itself out when it's hurting itself in confusion. Okay, I want to try and catch that Poliwrath with a Netball now, because otherwise it could just be trouble with Shadow Storm spam. Funny story about Mr. Mime, back when I was first playing the Pokemon games, one of my friends, we'd make up hypothetical Pokemon back then, and he came up with that there would be a Mrs. Mime, obviously wasn't aware of the Japanese translation issue at the time, and then they get a pre-evolution called Baby Mime, and you know what's funny? Baby Mime actually came true. They called it Mime Jr., so we weren't actually that far off in our name guess. I think I'll just go for another Icy Wind. No, I'm using the Netball. What am I doing? Mr. Mime is pretty much the last thing that I would have expected to become Fairy-type, though. Not even sure why they did that, but anyway. 1, 2, 3. Poliwrath gets. Aren't Netballs awesome? Poliwrath is, I find, another one of those Pokemon that looks impressive, but its stats just don't really back it up. It's a Water and Fighting type, which gives it 2 decent same-type attack bonus types, and it has a fairly decent move pool on both the physical and special sides. Unfortunately, its stats are just a bit average. You wouldn't guess by looking at it, but Poliwrath mostly focuses on bulk, having good HP, defense, and special defense, but having fairly mediocre attack and not very good special attack and speed. Of its 2 abilities, Water Absorb is probably going to be far more useful. This Poliwrath at least has a decent starting moveset, having Shadow Storm off the bat is alright, but on Purification it'll regain Hydro Pump, Rain Dance to boost it, Brick Break for secondary fighting stab, and Helping Hand, an excellent XD exclusive move, especially on something kind of bulky like Poliwrath. Being a stone evolution though, it doesn't learn much in the way of new moves by level up. You'll need to use the move relearner to get them. Hypnosis is a nice option, and Submission is a little bit stronger than Brick Break. For TM moves, Poliwrath has some interesting options. Bulk Up is quite nice if you can get the TM from Mount Battle. Ice Beam and Blizzard are options to handle Dragon types, but Poliwrath's special attack isn't amazing. The same can be said of Psychic in that regard. It's a pretty cool move for Poliwrath to have access to, but you've only got base 70 special attack. Earthquake and Rock Tomb are good physical options, as are Body Slam and Double Edge via Move Tutor. Icy Wind is nice support, and Seismic Toss, sadly, may be your best option against some things. Overall, Poliwrath is one of those Pokemon that looks good on paper, but once you check its stats, it's actually disappointingly average. There are better water types available in this game, including one Shadow Pokemon that's coming up pretty soon. And there's exactly one more thing that I need to catch with them. Mr. Mime actually hits... Does it hit the hardest out of every Shadow Storm user we've seen so far? I actually think that's true. Because there's been Hypno, which has like 73 base special attack. There's Poliwrath, which is like in the 80s. There's Electabuzz, which is like 90-something? Yeah, I think it's like 95 or something. And... you know what? I've forgotten who used Shadow Sky. I think it was the Poliwrath. And this is going to be annoying because I can't put you to sleep and I don't want to burn you. So for now, I'm just stuck spamming Icy Wind. It's actually a pretty good shot of Gorigan staying next to his Pokemon there. For some reason I keep forgetting that Gorigan has Mr. Mime. 1, 2, 3. Mr. Mime gets. Mr. Mime, yet another Psychic type available in this game, although this one comes pretty late. Like many Psychic types, its stats mainly lie in special attack, special defense, and speed, having good special defense in particular. But its HP and defense are abysmally low, even by Psychic type standards, and that's saying something. For starting moves, Shadow Storm is a great help while it's still a Shadow Pokemon, as at this point, I believe Mr. Mime should be the strongest user of Shadow Storm, having the highest special attack stat of all of its users. On Purification, it replaces that with the bog standard Psychic, gains Follow Me as its XD exclusive move, which is a double-edged sword. If you manage to draw a special attack with Follow Me, it's pretty decent, but if you end up drawing physical moves, that's bye-bye Mr. Mime. Encore gives it something unique over its fellow Psychic types. Mr. Mime isn't extremely fast, but it is fast enough to be able to lock some opponents into being useless for a few turns. Your last move on the starting set is Thunder Punch, which in my opinion should be replaced with Thunderbolt as soon as possible. Mr. Mime has quite a lot of unique level up moves, but at this level it's already passed over most of them, so you'll need to use the move relearner extensively. Mr. Mime is one of the few Pokemon to learn Substitute by level up, so that saves having to use the move tutor for it. Light Screen and Reflect are both nice, again saves having to use other means, in this case TMs. Magical Leaf is a bit of a weird option, but it can hit water ground types pretty hard. Trick, though, is another unique option, especially in Generation 3, where it was not a move tutor move yet. This swaps the opponent's held item for yours. Not that great in the main story, but in competitive play it can be pretty nice sometimes. And at level 49, Mr. Mime learns probably one of its best moves, and one of the things that makes it stand out amongst other Psychic types, Baton Pass. That explains why it doesn't have this as its XD exclusive move. The reason why Mr. Mime stands above and beyond when it comes to Baton Pass users is its soundproof ability, which makes it immune to roar. Normally the bane of Baton Pass chains, forcing you to switch out and eliminating all of your stat boosts. For TMs, Calm Mind is a great move to Baton Pass. Mr. Mime is decently fast enough to use Taunt, Light Screen and Reflector there if you don't want to pay the move relearner, and bizarrely Mr. Mime learns Solar Beam, so if you have a Sunny Day user on your team, this can be an alright option. Thunderbolt, like I said, I'd recommend using that over Thunder Punch. For tutor moves, Thunder Wave is a pretty good option. Other than that, Mr. Mime gets Dream Eater and Nightmare, but those are only really useful if you have a sleep user on your team, as Mr. Mime itself doesn't learn any sleep moves. Overall, Mr. Mime, in my opinion, comes a little late to be worth using over other Psychic types. Espeon and Gardevoir are available much earlier, and both probably do their job of an offensive Psychic type better than Mr. Mime does. I'd say Mr. Mime is best saved for competitive battles using Baton Pass. You know what, I guess Mr. Mime is in the human-like egg group, and, well, humans are apes, so guess that makes sense for Gorigan. And continuing the ape-man theme, there goes Gorigan. There's only one Cypher admin left defending the base. We all know who that is, and, well, yeah, that's gonna be a bit of a scary fight to do. Firstly, though, I want to continue because that fight didn't go on for very long. We have something else coming up that I... Also, my levels were a little behind. Something else coming up that I want to get out of the way first, and I also want to keep Ricky in the rear for. So, let's head down this elevator. I've always liked the way that this part of the island looked. Just this glass tunnel right over the lava. Anyway, though, on our way here, there is a Cypher Peon. Hi there. You aren't a Ceiling Peon. In fact, I think there aren't any more Ceiling Peons left in the game, which is kind of sad. Which means there are no Cypher Peons left ever, because... I mean, no Ceiling Peons left ever, because... yeah. We're getting to the end of Cypher, the end of this duology. It's kind of sobering knowing that. I mean, I know so many people wish they'd made a third game, and, I mean, I kind of do too, but... I don't know, it feels like there's not as much need for one anymore now that the main series games are in 3D, and I'm actually going to switch you out right now. Let's get rid of you to clear the field for Ricky's return. Well, not exactly return, because Ricky hasn't even been in this fight to begin with. Let's see. Okay, that's good. But let's see if I called Ampharos using an electric move on Fish Slayer's slot. Glalie goes down without getting the chance to do anything. Kind of surprised that a 65 base speed Pokemon outsped an 80 base. I forgot that you had your own Breloom! That's pretty funny. Aha! I did call it. Please don't paralyze, that'd be annoying. Good. And, well, it's Breloom versus Breloom, except that one of them's probably going to get Fire Blasted before the other one, and the only chance of mine getting Fire Blasted is if I did this, but I'm not going to do that, obviously, because that would be dumb. So you even have similar moves to me. They really want to turn this into a Breloom duel, don't they? However, I'm not going to give them the luxury. Goodbye, other Breloom. You will not be missed. There is room for only one Breloom in this fight, and it is mine. Okay, I'm glad you finally leveled up. You're not quite leveled up yet. Oh, that's not good for Lavertine. And yet another Mushroom Shoryuken! And another Thunderbolt. Please don't... Okay, good. Not that my Flareon getting electrocuted is a good thing, but I definitely would prefer that than Ricky getting weakened a little bit more. Because I do want to keep Ricky along, because, yes, this guy does have a Shadow Pokemon. Remember how I said all the way back that... Actually, that was a really stupid idea. Why did I do that? Because you're going to Thunderbolt me, aren't you? Oh, well, I guess we'll... Nope, you're going to Cotton Spore, although it might end with the same result if Cotton Spore... Yep, it hits Fish Slayer, so that could end with the same result. But, yeah, remember I said a long time ago that there is exactly one more non-boss Shadow Pokemon left in the game, and also only 2 trainers in this entire facility who have only 1 Shadow Pokemon? This guy is the answer to both of those. Not like they were actually questions, they were more like statements. Okay, good. Fish Slayer's probably safe for 1 turn after that. And that should be level up for Ricky. Yes, it is. Good. I definitely need to level up more before the end boss, though. fact, it's going to be a little annoying grinding that much because I probably want to be 50. Anyway, though, Dugtrio is the other singular Shadow Pokemon in this area. And that's the reason why I wanted Ricky, because Dugtrio has the defenses of wet tissue paper made of wet tissue paper. That's redundant, but I mean that... Like, let me put it this way. There are Pokemon that can be described as having the defenses of wet tissue paper. Of all of the Pokemon that have defenses like wet tissue paper, Dugtrio, by their standards, has the defenses of wet tissue paper. Dugtrio is so absurdly frail that it almost could not be any more frail, unless it was a Blissey on the... actually, because Blissey has enormous HP, it's not really all that frail. But, yeah. There's Frail, and then there's Dugtrio. It's part of why I don't like using Dugtrio in the main storylines of most Pokemon games, because it just faints to a, well, faint breeze. And you have to go through so many revives if you are using one. Okay, I guess it's going to be Moment of Truth time if this thing has Arena Trap or not. Let's try it. Actually, no, let's not try it for a second. Because I don't want to switch out Ricky. But let's just see. I may want to switch out Fish Slayer, so let's just see whether you have Arena Trap. You do have Arena Trap! That's good. That means you're a good Dugtrio. You know, I suppose I should heal you just so you... Actually, no, it's already too late for you to get experience from this fight. You know what, though? I'll heal you anyway. And I'm out of Moon Milks, but yeah, I'll heal you anyway. Just to be nice. But yeah, because core Pokemon don't give experience in this game, there's no way you're going to be leveling up in this fight anymore. So, I will now stun you, and then I'll just spam False Swipe. Because this Dugtrio, I would recommend just not hitting it with anything that isn't False Swipe, because it is one of the easiest Shadow Pokemon in the game to accidentally knock out. Almost like that. I still think it was a really dumb move what they did with that Shadow Remoraid back in Colosseum. Just like, oh hey, in an area where everything is level, like around level 34-ish, here's a Pokemon that's level 20, lower level than even your starters. Yeah, I have... If you didn't knock out that thing on... Okay, that's actually, I'm glad that Fish Slayer is down, because now I don't need to worry about Rough Skin anymore. But... if you played Colosseum and you didn't knock out that Remoraid on your first playthrough, please tell me, because I'll be very impressed. I know I did on my first playthrough, and I know that many, many other people did on their first playthroughs. So I have yet to hear of anyone who didn't knock that thing out in their first playthrough. Anyway, let's get another False Swipe in, and I will cry at you, even though it's completely useless. Just because I can. Wah! Wah! Orson wants Dugtrio easier to catch. Wah! Dugtrio does hit pretty hard though at this point I'm kind of fine with that. I have its HP down low enough. I still think it's really, like, speaking of questionable game design choices, I think it's really weird that you can find Dugtrios in the level 30s in Red and Blue and their remakes in Diglett's Cave, and it's even worse in Fire Red and Leaf Green when they can have Arena Trap, so it's like, hey, here's level 30 plus Pokemon that has over 100 base attack and speed that you can't run from. I've seen so many deaths to those things in Nuzlocke, it's ridiculous. Like, Nuzlockers are just terrified of going through Diglett's Cave. Repels won't save you, because that Dugtrio is higher level than pretty much anything you can have at that point in the game. 1, 2, 3. Dugtrio gets. Okay, hear me out for a second. Even though I do think Dugtrio is a great Pokemon in competitive battling thanks to Arena Trap, I've personally never found it that good in single player. Sure, it's extremely fast, but its 80 base attack is very low for a ground type, even with the extremely powerful Earthquake. And oh, sweet Arceus, is it fragile. Especially since the fights that are coming up have a lot of Shadow Pokemon, and with Shadow moves always being super effective against non-Shadows, if you purify this Dugtrio, it's going to be fainting a lot. Of its two abilities, neither of them are likely to be much use in single player. If you're concerned with multiplayer though, definitely get Arena Trap. For starting moves, this Dugtrio makes good use of Shadow Break, and on Purification it will have Earthquake right off the bat, which would normally be nice, but Dugtrio is one of the few Pokemon that learns it by level up anyway. Sandstorm is kinda helpful if you have Sand Veil, and Tri-Attack is another stab option that has a chance of status. Its XD exclusive move is Charm. Normally this isn't a bad move, but on something this fragile, I'm willing to bet most things will still one-shot you even if you charm them. There aren't many level up moves of Dugtrio that this one doesn't already start with, but Dig is an option if you want to dodge attacks for a turn. For TM moves, Sludge Bomb and Aerial Ace are decent coverage options physically, but I've listed Toxic here for a specific reason. In competitive play, Dugtrio can act as a pretty decent Blissey and even Wobbuffet counter. But only in Gen 3, they changed how trapping abilities work in later generations. But locking one of those two in and using Toxic is a viable strategy. For tutor moves, Body Slam and Swagger give some status support, Double Edge gives you an extra normal type option for power, and Substitute can sometimes help you sponge hits thanks to how fast Dugtrio is. This might just be a personal thing, but again, I've never found Dugtrio that great in single player. Personally, if I was going to use an Earthquake ground type in this game, I'd use Donphan, even Sandslash, or heck, even Trapinch, since at this point you're probably pretty close to Flygon. Sorry, Dugtrio. And I'm going to go back and heal now. Because very soon after we go up that elevator, we're going to have the fight of our lives ready for us. That elevator right there. So, I'm going to head back for now. Still love how that steam is rising up.